Picture this. I'm holding my read aloud for the day, ready to start the lesson I spent too many hours preparing. Meanwhile, my kids are having very intense conversations about what candy is the best candy, and someone is under a table meowing. I try 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, and 3 kids look. Victory? Not really. Getting the class quiet felt like trying to gather confetti in the wind. That is exactly why I started testing every quieting trick I could find. Some actually worked, some only worked for 2 days, and some were such epic fails that my kids stared at me like I'd just spoken in a new language. To keep things fair, I'll be using my Quiet Classroom Scorecard, which looks at 5 things: ease of use, student response time, consistency, teacher energy required, and how well it actually works during classroom chaos. Because not every strategy can handle a room full of kids who just came back from PE. Okay, so this first one where you just raise your hand and then you're waiting for everyone else to raise their hand. It's obviously so easy. I would say that it does work sometimes. Very low teacher energy is required because you can literally be anywhere raising your hand. But I would also say that it's probably pretty useless after PE and depending on how much energy your kids have. So that's why this one is getting a C. All right, the next one is very similar. You basically hold your hand up and you're counting down on your fingers. By the time you get to 0, it's supposed to be quiet. It's also so easy. You just need your body, you just need your hand. It does require such low teacher energy effort. And I would say that it handles medium chaos most days, and that you're going to have most of your kids are going to respond, especially if they're also putting their hands up and the kids are seeing all the hands going up and counting down. And that's why this one is getting a B. All right, the next one is basically turning the lights on and off. It is so easy, but you do have to be by the light switch, so you're going to have to maybe move, which is kind of inconvenient. It does work right away for most kids. I would say, of course, you're going to always have an outlier, but most kids, that's going to be what is going on? Which makes it very reliable. And I would say that it handles a pretty good amount of student chaos. And that's why this one, I'm giving it an A+. All right, our next one is a clap pattern that they repeat. And I will say, even I feel like as adults, if I went, you know that you're going to do the last 2 claps because it's simple enough. Most kids are going to respond right away. It's just ingrained in us, which makes it pretty reliable. It is low teacher energy. You can stand and do it from anywhere, and it even works during assemblies. And that's why this one is getting an A+. All right, our next one is tapping a chime or a bell, like this is xylophone. I would say this is manageable. You do have to have the item and you have to move to get to it. But most kids are going to respond to that sound, as well as that, it requires just a reasonable amount of teacher energy. Again, it just requires your movement to get there. And I would say that it holds up to my own chaos. So this one, I'm giving a B. Okay, our next one is pretty viral. It's the new thing, and it's basically getting one of these portable doorbells. What I like is that you can wear it so it can be everywhere with you. And it is manageable, but it does have to be purchased. So that's a downside. I would say that most kids respond right away. Again, it's that noise and makes it pretty reliable. But I would say that if your class is already too loud, they might not hear it. They might not tune into it. For that reason, this one is getting an A. All right, our next one is using a website, a volume meter website. Basically, as it gets louder, the balls bounce more and you're trying to get them to quiet down. It's simple enough because you can basically put it and it will do its thing by itself. But I would say that sometimes only about half the class uses it, and sometimes you have to remind them still, which kind of is low teacher energy, but a little bit more. And I would say that this strategy is going to definitely collapse when the excitement level of your classroom rises too high. And so for that reason, this one, it's getting a C. All right, our next one is these noise letters. So basically, as they get too loud, you take off letters, and once it gets to no, you're on to no talking. It's definitely simple enough, but you do have to kind of walk to the board. Most kids are going to respond to it because nobody likes a very silent period. It's pretty reliable, low teacher energy, and I would say that it handles mild chaos pretty well. And for that reason, this strategy is getting an A. All right, our next one is teaching voice levels, like a voice level 0 is silent and on to like a presenter voice. This is also manageable. Most kids are good at it, especially once you've taught it, and it's pretty reliable. It requires a reasonable amount of teacher energy because, like I said, you do have to teach it before you can use it. But I would say that it handles mild chaos pretty well. And so for that reason, I'm giving this strategy an A. All right, the next one is like putting up on your projector screen something that says stop and look. It's simple enough. You set it, forget it. Like you don't have to like constantly be in it. So it's definitely requires low teacher energy. I would say about a half of your class is going to listen, and it will work if everyone maybe is in a good mood. It's definitely going to collapse once the excitement level spikes, and if they're not looking at the screen, they might not see it. And so for that reason, I'm going to give this one a C. All right, our next one is hands on your head, and everyone else does it too. And then it like ripples through the room. So which makes it simple enough. Because everybody's doing it and the kids see that everyone's doing it, most kids are going to respond right away, which makes it pretty reliable. I love that it's low teacher energy, and it definitely handles mild chaos pretty well. And so for that reason, this one is getting an A. All right, the next one is whispering. So basically, you're somewhere and suddenly you change your voice into a whisper, which makes it super simple. You're just changing the tone of your voice, and most kids are going to respond. I do think it works well if you don't overuse it. If you're using it all the time, that's probably going to fall through the cracks, which to me, And I would say that it holds up if the class is only like half wiggly. If they're a little bit, have too much energy, it's probably not going to work for you. And so for that reason, this one is getting a B. All right, the next one is everyone takes a deep breath together. I do think it works better if you do more than one because some people miss the first one, and I think it helps really calm everyone. It's so simple, and sometimes it's even what you need to. Most of your kids are going to respond right away. They're going to learn that like it feels good and they want to do it. As you're taking a deep breath, they get quiet, which makes it very reliable. Definitely doesn't take a lot of teacher energy. And I would say, though, it handles mild chaos really well, which means that this one is getting an A. All right, utilizing table team point. For this one, I would say it's manageable. Most kids are going to respond, especially if they're competitive, which makes it a reliable strategy. It requires a reasonable amount of teacher energy. You're having to walk to the board. You're having to pay attention to who deserves the points. And I would also say that it handles mild chaos pretty well. And so for that reason, this one is getting a B. All right, a mystery motivator. Basically, as they do each sticky note, you take the sticky note off and there's like a reward underneath, which makes it manageable, but you do have to create it. Most kids are going to respond right away because they want to see what's underneath. I believe that it works every day and reasonable teacher energy is required. It does handle mild chaos, even though it does take some teacher energy from you. But my kids have always really loved that. And for this reason, this one is getting an A+. All right, the next one is a secret student. So basically you write a student name, you put the secret student thing on, and you're supposed to remember who the secret student is to watch if they were doing the right things throughout the day. To me, this is clunky. It's like another thing for me to remember. That is the last thing I need. But most kids really enjoy it and they respond right away. I feel like it does work as long as the kids are like in a good mood. Sometimes they just don't even care. And it does take a lot of teacher effort to me, and I believe like it really only holds up like about half the time. And so for that reason, secret student is getting a C. Okay, our next one is the secret word of the day. So it's simple enough. You're just having to come up with a simple word. I like to do one that like we've already learned about, or that goes with the spelling pattern we've learned about, or something like that. And once you say the word, the kids freeze, which makes it's low teacher energy. It's pretty reliable. The only downside is that you're having to remember the word, but it handles mild chaos pretty well. And I usually just refer to where I've written the word to help me remember it. And I usually use my word for a week versus a day. And when you use it that way, I think this one deserves an A+. All right, the next one is the game class versus teacher. So basically you tally throughout the day and see who wins. This is simple enough, but you do have to keep track on the board of the tally marks, which requires you getting up and like doing that. Most kids respond right away, especially like I was saying earlier, if they are competitive. That makes this pretty reliable. They usually want to beat the teacher. They hate when the teacher gets the point, but it does take some teacher effort. I would say that this handles mild chaos pretty well, but because of how much you do kind of have to manage it, I'm giving this one a B. The next one is using like a class store token system. So they have some way of they're buying things. Now this has a lot of moving parts. In my opinion, you're having to figure out like what you're giving as money, and most kids do respond, but some kids aren't extrinsically motivated. So it doesn't always work. It works if they care about what's in your store and what they can buy. But honestly, in my opinion, it can drain your soul, your money, and your time, because you also have to find a time for them to be able to shop. And I feel like it collapses easily. And even though I've literally used this in every classroom, I think this one deserves an F. It makes me rethink about using it in the future. All right, my next one is using a collaborative game. Basically, everyone's working together to get to a goal. I would say this is also very manageable. The teacher is still kind of having to manage it, but the kids really enjoy it, and it makes it pretty reliable that they're going to want to do the thing to get to move the pieces. It does, again, require a little bit of the teacher energy, and I feel like it does handle mild chaos, but because of how much it requires of the teacher, I'm going to give this one a B. All right, the next one is like graphing your progress. So maybe you're graphing how many blurts were in each lesson or how long we can work quietly. The downside is that the teacher, you're having to make the graph, you're having to graph the results each time, and then you're having to talk about the progress, because if you don't talk about it, it doesn't work. But I do think that most kids respond right away. Like, kids really love that. They love getting to see their progress, and they like to make it go up or down, whichever way like is the goal, which makes it pretty reliable. But because of how much teacher effort it takes, that's a downside. And I feel like it only holds up like if they really want to work on things, if they're like medium wiggly, but if they have too much energy, they may not care anymore. And so for that reason, this one is getting a C. All right, the next one is blurts, using like a blurt chart like this, or spelling the word blurt, or taking away the letters for the word blurt. There's a couple of ways I've done this, a couple of ways to do it. I feel like it's simple enough, although you do have to like prep it. I feel like usually half the class listen, and it works if they're feeling it for the day. It does take a reasonable amount of teacher energy, again, because like you're manning it the whole time. And honestly though, I feel like it collapses if they get too excited. And so for that reason, I'm giving this one a C. All right, the next one is using quiet critters. So you do have to buy these, or you have to make them, and that you place them on the student's desk when they're working silently, like no talking, because the quiet critter doesn't like to hear the noise. And I would say that this is manageable because after you've bought or made them, they last a really long time. So far, mine are 10 years strong, and I love that you can like reuse them. I would say as soon as you say like, you're getting a little too loud for your quiet critter, kids freeze. They're quiet because they don't want theirs taken. They love them. They want them to stay on their desk. And so to me, it works almost every day, and it requires low teacher energy. Now I do, if they're already like ramped up, I won't use them that day because I know that I would have to take a lot of away. So to me, it like only handles a mild chaos, but I only use them when it's like not over the top, like it's not a class party day or something. And so for that reason, I'm giving quiet critters an A. All right, next up is like a singing, dancing stuffed animal like this. And so the goal is that like once the song is over, they're quiet or they're where they need to be. To me, this is manageable. It's just a push of the button. The downside is that you do have to buy them, and they can be a little bit pricey. I like to get mine like on sale after the season, or I've seen teachers do like, she had a frog theme and she had a frog one. But I do think that while most kids respond to this, some kids do get very distracted. And so that means it works most of the time. It requires low teacher energy, but it only holds up if they're medium wiggly. So that's why I'm giving this a B. All right, the next one is standing silently at the classroom, waiting for them to get quiet. It's definitely super simple because you're just standing there. You don't even have to talk. It is the lowest of low of teacher energy. But obviously there is a delayed class reaction. Kind of reminds me of like buffering Wi-Fi. And there's a reason why this is literally on tons of shirts and memes with a skeleton, because you are going to be up there for a really long time before students start to care and before you get everyone quiet. You know, it takes so long, and then at some point the kids start yelling at each other, guys, she's waiting for you, be quiet. And it's just like, to me, it's like completely useless. especially like if they have any amount of energy. This deserves an F. Not worth it. Don't do it. All right, our next one is stepping into a student's line of sight. So let's say one student is being loud. You basically go and get in front of them so that they see you. You have to step into where they're looking. It's simple enough now. It is low teacher energy, but you are having to get up and move and walk into their line of sight. Most kids are going to respond to this right away, which makes it pretty reliable. And I would say that it handles most chaos pretty well. And so for that reason, I'm going to give this one an A. All right, the next one is the classic raise your eyebrow. Not everyone can do this, or some people call it like the look. It is super simple, right? All you have to do, the trick is to make eye contact with that student to give them the look. Most kids freeze, no questions asked. Like the look is enough for them. And I love that it's pretty reliable and hits low teacher energy. And I would say it honestly also handles mild chaos. So for this one, it's getting an A. If you haven't tried it yet or you haven't got the look down, keep practicing. All right, the next one might not sound like a strategy, but it is. It's consistent routines. It does take a lot of work on the teacher's behalf, and it requires a reasonable amount of teacher energy. But to me, you're just teaching. So, I mean, it's not anything like absurd. Most kids are going to get it, and it does work every day, even during a class party. And so that's why this one is getting an A+. All right, our next one is expectations. Those expectations taught, practice, and retaught. So this is different from just having consistent expectations because you're also practicing and reteaching them every time they break down, every time. It does take a lot of work on the teacher's behalf, but it requires, I would say, a reasonable amount of teacher energy. Sometimes you are having to stop what you're doing to practice and reteach. But if you do it enough, they will get tired of doing it. And I will say that it works every day, all the time. And so that's why this one is getting an A+. And if you haven't watched any of my other videos, you know that this one is a really big one for me. I believe that this one is like the ultimate in classroom management. All right, the next one is using some kind of a visual reminder. So maybe it's like on the station exactly what they should be doing, as well as like what voice level they should be at. It's posted wherever they are with what they're doing. Now, it does take work on the teacher's behalf. You do have to kind of set it up and you have to teach it. But once you've done that, it's low energy because you've taught the students where to look and they are able to easily check it if they are not sure. Most kids are definitely going to get it. And it also handles mild chaos pretty well. Kind of goes back to that teaching routines thing. And so that's why this one is getting an A. Next one is teaching when to talk versus when to not talk versus when to listen. So very explicitly teaching this. And again, it takes work on the teacher's part to have to teach it or maybe reteach it, but I feel like it requires a reasonable amount of teacher energy. Once you've taught this, most kids are going to get it. But if they get too excited, it's going to all fall apart. They're probably going to forget because it's like one of those things that really takes a lot of practice. And that's why I'm giving this one an A. All right, the next one is verbal call and responses. So there's a bunch of different ones of these. Some examples would be like class, class, yes, yes. I really liked my last school, like the whole school used that. And so that was really nice. Holy moly, guacamole, to infinity and beyond. Another one that's very popular, hocus pocus, let's focus, ready to rock, ready to roll. Okay, now it does take work on your part to have to teach it up front, but once they've learned it, it really like comes in easily. And so I feel like it takes very low teacher energy. The kids will respond lightning quick. If one kind of fizzles out, you can always teach another one. And to me, it works every day, even after a full moon. And this is even what they use at assemblies. And so if it works at an assembly, it's also good enough for me. And that's why this one is getting an A+. All right, that's our full tier list. Some quieting strategies absolutely earn their spot at the top. Simple, reliable, and kid approved. Others, well, they work on the days the moon isn't full and everyone got enough sleep. If you aren't sure what one of these strategies are, but you want to try it, be sure to comment below and I'll happily respond to help you get going. And if you're looking for something that consistently calms your class without extra teacher energy, you'll want to check out the video linked here, where I show you how to use visual timers to guide transitions and bring the noise level down. Thanks for watching, and remember, even if your class forgets every attention signal you've ever taught them, you're still doing an amazing job.